unlikely to abide by the ICC's warrant of arrest for Putin if he attends the summit in August. Nokukanya Mtambo reports.
Media reports that South Africa is mulling 3 options to appease the Kremlin have further sparked outrage and concerns about the country's stance on Russia. The first option is said to be a hybrid summit, with Russian President Vladimir Putin attending the summit online, while the second option is a plan to dissuade Putin from attending the summit altogether. The third option is China being touted as a neutral venue. President Cyril Ramaphosa's phone call with Chinese President Xi Jinping this past weekend further fueled speculation about discussions to avert a diplomatic crisis. But the presidency has pleaded ignorance on all 3 claims. Spokesperson in the presidency, Vincent Magwenya.
As things stand, South Africa will be hosting and chairing the upcoming BRICS summit.
While Ramaphosa is expected to visit Russia soon, it's understood only the peace mission to help end the war is on the agenda. Nokukanya Mtambo, Eyewitness News.
With another month-long delay in the Senzo Meyiwa trial, the football star's family says they've been living with an open wound for way too long. The trial was postponed today due to the presiding judge being unwell. 5 men stand accused for the 2014 murder of the Bafana Bafana captain. Khomoso Modise reports.
After travelling over 600 kilometres from Umlazi to Pretoria with the hope of hearing more from the people that saw Senzo Meyiwa die, the footballer's family has been left despondent, emotional and frustrated after today's postponement. A teary-eyed Nomalanga, Meyiwa's sister, says at the very least they could have been informed of the potential of today's postponement.
No one cares for us. Nobody takes us into consideration, especially Senzo's mom. She's at home expecting the trial to continue. It's very sad.
It's almost 9 years since the Bafana Bafana captain was killed. Nomalanga says it seems like they'll spend another decade with no answers.
Some of the witnesses keep saying they've forgotten some of the details. With all of these delays, how will they remember what happened?
Well, the match has been postponed to the middle of next month, whether Judge Chipiwa Maumela will return to his seat and continue to hear the matter is yet to be seen. Khomoso Modise, Eyewitness News at the Pretoria High Court.
Gauteng's fine tomorrow, Joburg dropping to an overnight low of 3 degrees, reaching a high of 16. Pretoria 6 and 17, Vereeniging 2 and 14. Lerato Hufela, Eyewitness News.
Eyewitness News on 947. For more, click ewn.co.za.
Beautiful tackle. Racing through, there's a great chance. That's it! William. 2 goals in 2 minutes, and this man remains remarkably calm.
Our top story this hour, veteran soccer coach Clive Barker has passed away in Durban and a Durban hospital, in fact, on Saturday. In a statement, his family says the veteran coach died after a brave battle with Lewy Body Dementia. Barker lifted the African Cup of Nations as national coach with Bafana Bafana back in 1996, nicknamed the Dog.
People ask me that, and they already expect to say that AFCON win going to France, but the biggest day for me was Nelson Mandela's inauguration. He said to us that he would come and watch us play. On the very day he became the president of this country, and I thought, God, it could never happen. But of course it did, and marvellous, and what he did for us, and he was the biggest factor why we won the African Cup of Nations. Fabulous.
He was the only coach who was giving me 100% freedom to do whatever on the field. And he used to say, go out there, dance boy, dance doggy, we need you. And I didn't understand why would Clive single me out. He moved from being a coach, he moved from being a father. He was like a friend.
He took the South African national team to their only African Cup of Nations title in 1996.
All the players were sitting at one table. Not 4 there, 6 there, everybody sat down at the table. He let the families also come. Your father, your mother, your sister, and he'll greet everybody. You know how that made you feel as a player? You can do anything for a man like that. When we were dancing, when we were sad, he was part of us. When we were drinking beer, he was drinking beers with us. I think he's at a good place now. He'll meet some of the players, actually, that he was coaching, Soos and Phil Masinga. So they'll have a chat there on top about that. And so I will just say my condolences to the Barker family. May his soul rest in peace.
I did it my way.
Marawa, live on 9. 947. Vuma FM, Rise FM, and Sowetan Live. #MSW.
Well, the dog is barking no more. In simple language, Clive Barker isn't with us anymore. What a painful weekend for South African football. For African football, a rare breed of a human being, a genius of a coach, deeply rooted in something that came very, very naturally to him. His love of South African football, as well as his ability to understand and use the country's diverse culture. In the words of Coach Pitso Msimane, saying that, and I quote, Clive had a desire and compassion to have a deeper understanding of the players at his disposal, a difficult combination to get out of a coach. He coached a human being first, then a talented football player. End quote. And man, if that doesn't tell you just what a father Clive Barker was, then I guess nothing ever will. A father who, according to the words of Mark Leeson, perfectly summed up his fatherly role, saying that he, and I quote, cooed like a mother hen over the skills of Dr. Khumalo, loved the mischievous side of Mark Williams, and reveled in the talent of John Shoes Mashweo, end quote. And those are just three of what must have been hundreds of footballers who passed through Clive's hands in a storied career that took on both internationally as well as club success. I guess Clive didn't think too hard about tactics, but he thought hard about people. And that's how he secured his 1996 Africa Cup of Nations triumph. With an old school formation, if you understand and follow football, a simple 4-4-2 featuring a midfield of two ball-winning warriors behind a duo of silky attacking midfielders. I mean, his match day philosophy was very, very simple. The hard men, and those in terms would be someone like a Linda Mercedes-Benz, Buthelezi, and Eric Tinkler. Those are the hard men doing hard work. And the artists must be free to express the effervescent and theatrical spirit of the Mzansi game. Simple, very jovial. I mean, that was Clive Barker. That jovial personality reinforced the inaccurate perception that he was a simple man doing a simple job. In fact, he was a subtle and intuitive analyst of character as well as culture. And he needed to be. He simply needed to be. I mean, he navigated a fraught and very complex socio-political terrain for decades, both on and beyond the pitch. I mean, Clive was one of the first white coaches to work for a black club, starting with AmaZulu back in 1972, before the unification of the country's racially segregated leagues in the late 1970s. He's somebody who won with unfancied teams. If you throw your mind back, he took league titles at Durban City back in 1982, and as well as 1983. Durban Bushbucks also in 1985 won the Coca-Cola Cup with AmaZulu in 1992, as well as the Africa Cup of Nations with Bafana Bafana in that wonderful year of 1996. He also won the 2001 Bobsleigh Super Bowl with Santos, beating Sundowns in the final. His success continued into the 2010s, steering Bidvest Wits to third in the Premiership in 2012 as well as 2013 season, and Mpumalanga Black Aces to 7th in 2013-2014. How do we remember this man? Very difficult to say. I mean, he'll be best remembered, though, for that infectious enthusiasm that accompanied everything that he did, staying with him throughout his career as he moved from the Durban football scene, which is kind of anonymous Durban scene, to the top of the pile in Africa. Fly well, coach. Fly well, the dog. Even if we could ask for 3 hours to pay tribute to this man, it simply wouldn't be enough. And that's what we're going to attempt to do today.
Bafana Bafana winning the African Cup of Nations with the South African coach at the helm.
And this man remains remarkably calm. Has had a glorious finish.
Is one of the standout moments in the history of SA football.
It has put South Africa right out of sight.
Clive Barker signalled the takeoff of Bafana Bafana to become the champions of Africa.
Racing through, there's a great chance. That's it! William.
He was a one-of-a-kind, a tribute from all of us at #MSW947, Vuma FM, Rise FM, and Sowetan Live.
Yeah. We got two great legends in studio. Mark Williams, Andre Aronsa. They'll walk this journey with us tonight. But firstly, let me reach out to John Barker, son to Clive Barker, who's on the line. John, thank you so much indeed. A difficult time for the family, without a doubt. Difficult time for all those who he considered to be his family in the football sense in South Africa and beyond. Firstly, kindly accept our condolences at 947 for my fam, Rise FM, as well as Sowetan Live. Thank you so much for your time, John. Good evening.
Good evening, Robert. Thank you so much for that. Really, really appreciate that. Thank you, man. It's a tough week for all of us, for the country, for the soccer fraternity, and in particular our family. So I really appreciate that sentiment. Thank you, Robert.
I know the last time we spoke, John, there was hope. He was being taken out of a hospital environment and headed home. And I think we did say difficult, but there was a glimmer of hope. And that came to an end over the weekend. Was he back in hospital at this stage? John, just to pick up, obviously, on the well-being, knowing that he hadn't been well for a while.
Yes, Robert. We last time we spoke, there was a lot of hope and a lot of optimism about him possibly being around for a lot longer. And, you know, the sad thing is that he has been sick for the last 6 months. But, you know, it still comes as a shock. It's, you know, you can't believe that it happens. I really thought that he would be around at least till the end of the year, you know, maybe a bit longer. And unfortunately, his health took a bit of a dive. And he was rushed back to hospital on Thursday night and was in intensive care at Interveni Hospital. And, the doctors phoned my mom on the Thursday, actually early hours of Friday morning, to say, listen, it's the situation now, but it's a matter of hours. So my brother Gavin was very fortunate. Gavin, when my dad got taken into ICU, he went down to Durban and he got there just in time to be there with my mom. And then my dad passed away in the early hours of the morning.
Sure. And just what would your final moments have been with your dad, Clive Barker, the father?
When he came out of hospital 3 months ago, I came down to Durban and we took him out of the hospital, brought him home. And, if I compare it to him, how he was then, it was great. He was in a wheelchair and we still had some moments where we spoke. And, typically my dad, all the people that have been around my dad and have been coached by my father, even in those times where there was just a few seconds in the day where he would make a conversation. His last thing to me when I hugged him, he said to me about his grandsons, about my sons and about Gavin's sons. He said, tell the boys to keep fighting. Tell them to keep... Sorry. Just emotional, Sorry.
I know it's a difficult one, as you recall that, John. But obviously very, very powerful words. He always kind of thought way ahead of what us so-called normal human beings would.
Yeah, he was always so positive, and the coach right till the end, always trying to be positive and trying to get everyone to do better than they can and do the best that they can. So it's just typical of him and how he was all the time. Also the doctors and all the nurses said it was incredible that all the way to the end, he was always so pleasant and kind and polite. Just a testament to him that's who he was through and through. Even when times were tough and his body was giving out, he was still trying to be pleasant to everybody around him. Just incredible, from the doctors and the nurses. And so, yeah.
I mean, did he share with you at all, John, just what his wish would be? One day when this dreaded day would come through, did he ever share with you what he would hope this country becomes, or what he would wish for?
Yeah, I mean, he's the most patriotic person. He loves this country. He loves the people of this country more than anything else. He constantly believes, even through all the dramas that we're going through, that we face every day in South Africa, he always believed that South Africa was the greatest country in the world. And he really did, because it's about the people. He believes that South Africans are what they've gone through, and their approach and their attitude, their positive attitude to life. He just really thinks this is the best country in the world, and he's always stuck by that. That's been his philosophy, and I think that's his hope. He was always seen as the guy who represented the Rainbow Nation, and I know that sentiment that's kind of passed and it's maybe frowned upon, but the idea is that he always believed together as South Africans we could always achieve so much, and he always believed in our diversity, and he would just hope that we get through all the dramas we get through, and that we really become the great country that we should be, and that's always been his dream. Yeah.
And I've got two great legends here who equally share these sentiments from your side, John. But before I let you go, and I know we'll be chatting in the week, we've been inundated with a lot of people wanting to know details of the funeral, details of where they could go. And somebody phoned early on, just chatting with the team earlier, and they were telling me that somebody who once worked as a security guard, and Clive really acknowledged him and just felt like he was part of the journey. I think he wanted to, wherever he lives in Joburg, and wanted to head down to wherever the funeral is. So maybe you can kindly share that, John, if you do have the details.
Yes, the funeral will take place on Thursday, 15th of June, here in Durban. We also had a fantastic visit today by the Minister of Arts and Culture, Zizi Kodwa, and President Daniel John, and they have been fantastic in supporting and have organized the funeral for us and for KZN and the country. So that's, we really appreciate that, and thank them very much for coming on board and making that possible. So it will happen Thursday. As such, we don't have details definite of the venue, but that will probably be out tomorrow morning. But I can just say that it's Thursday in Durban.
Okay, I think as the details do come about, we will share them, and I'm sure that the turn and the twist now that there is some form of government involvement of it being a provincial, official funeral, that might also just change. If you wanted something private, John, that you're not going to achieve that, not with Clive, not with the people that loved him. No. It would be impossible to do that, yeah.
No, he absolutely belongs to the nation, and I think it's only fitting that we say goodbye to him in that fashion. So, it's great that everyone's come to the party and giving him that dignified farewell that he really deserves. So it's been a great day for us.
Yeah, I'm glad there's a positive twist, because he was a positive father figure to all of us. John, make no doubt about that. I'm sure if you got time, you'll listen further on the show with the legends and studio. Many tributes that have come through via the radio station. I want to wish you strength as a family. I thank you for your time during, obviously, a moment where there's a lot of reflection as well on who Clive was as a family, and also us as fans as well. So, John, thank you so much, and all the best moving forward with all the plans.
Robert, thank you so much. I also just want to say that Neil Tovey was here today representing the Bafana team, and it was just great to see Neil, and we'll spend time with the other players, with Doc and with Lucas and everybody else throughout the week. But thank you so much for being so supportive and big fans. And my dad is a huge fan of you and everything you're doing. So, thank you so much. And we'll definitely see you in a week. Thank you, Robert.
Absolutely, John Barker, thank you so much indeed, joining us right here on Marawa Sports Worldwide. I talked about Clive Barker and a last wish.
Clive Barker, what's the one thing you still want to do? What's the one thing? You want to go bungee jumping? What is the one thing that you still desire?
I would love to win the African Cup of Nations again. If that's not possible, well, we have to walk on. Just to see South African play to the best of their potential, which is huge, and just let's hope we can get it all right.
I know that when the book ended, it said at the end of the Africa Cup of Nations final, when the whistle blew, I saw FW de Klerk, King Zwelithini, Nelson Mandela all walking across the pitch together, holding hands. And for the first time, I thought that South Africa really was united.
People who represent and present football, you guys have done it really a very, very good job. So from me, as a football coach, to the presenters, thank you for your performance.
I did it my way.
#MSW.
#MSW.
Marawa Sports Worldwide Live.
In 3, 2, 1.
On 947, Vuma FM, Rise FM, and Soweto Live.
#MSW.
We've all heard of injury time, added time, and extra time, but poor Chris has hit extra time. While his girlfriend tries on everything in the store, he's been stuck outside the change rooms.
But look, he's checking Betway Bulb.
With Betway Bulb, he's got access to the stats he'll need to place his bet on tonight's game, all right on his phone. There's no better way to burn down the clock.
Another feature, another gem. Halala!
It helps to be switched on with Betway Bulb.
Licensed and regulated by the Western Cape Gambling and Racing Board. No persons under the age of 18 years are permitted to gamble. For gambling counseling, call SARGF on 0800 006 008 or WhatsApp 076 675 0710.
Life's harder nowadays. Interest rates on the incline, petrol pump panic, and that load-shedding life. You know what's easy? Lulaland. Literally. Lula means easy. And if you need business funding of up to 5 million rand, get that moolah with Lula. Apply online in minutes and receive your funds in less than 48 hours. No paperwork, no collateral, no hidden costs. Visit lulalend.co.za and give your business some Lula love. It's easy. T's and C's apply.
Welcome to Dial A for Action.
Hi, I'm calling because I haven't had some action in a while.
Okay, what are you into?
So I like a really tall guy with blonde hair and sexy eyes. He must have big arms and can handle his weapons proper.
I see. What else?
And when they're on a mission, the guy can skop, skiet en donder.
Excuse me?
Ja, skop, skiet en donder.
Don't miss out on the ultimate high-octane action film of the year. Tyler Rake lives. Watch Extraction 2, streaming 16 June, only on Netflix.
There they are, the family afflicted by the common winter cold, stuck in bed and waylaid by congestion, phlegm, aches and pains. But there are friends to see and fun to be had. This family needs to take their winter back. They need all-in-one Lintagon to feel better, faster.
At Trilidor, we never stop innovating. Introducing the re-engineered Trojan retractable products and Griffin Guard security screen with state-of-the-art materials that deliver advanced Trilidor strength at a better price than ever before. Visit trilidor.co.za and explore the latest in home security. Trilidor, strong, stylish, secure.
We can stay here, stick with what worked before, keep our eye on that one spot, steadfast. Or we can recognize that the only constant is change. At 91, we believe that with change comes opportunity. That's why we have 250 investment professionals in the world's investment hubs actively seeking opportunities for you, wherever in the world they may be. Isn't it time to change how you see investing? Invest offshore with 91. 91. Investing for a world of change. 91 is an authorized FSP.
The AFCON 1996 Final 11. Andre Arendse, Sizwe Motaung, Mark Fish, Neil Tovey, Lucas Radebe, Dr. Kumalo, Eric Tinkler, Linda Buthelezi, John Mashweu, Sean Bartlett, Phil Masinga. These are the champions' names of the 1996 AFCON winners, coached by the legend Clive Barker. Rest in peace. Hashtag MSW947. Vuma FM, Rise FM, and Sowetan Live.
Two goals in 2 minutes, huh? That's what it was. That starting 11 of the 1996 Africa Cup of Nations. You'd have heard the omission of a name, Mark Williams, there. That's simply because he decided to bring himself onto the field. As legend would tell us so many times, just how agitated he was sitting on the bench. He decided to stand up and scratch his ankles and walk around so that the fans could make a bit of noise and force Clive Barker to turn around and say, okay, Mark, you come on. And he came on, turned on the magic. We won. And we're winning right now because we can only relive those moments about and with Clive Barker, with these legends here. I don't know who's older, but I know one was saving us from defeat, the other one was helping us win. So Andre's pointing at Mark Williams. Gentlemen, firstly, good evening. Welcome to the show. Thank you both for coming through. I know it's a difficult moment because he was more than a coach to both of you.
Yeah, he certainly was. You know, we've heard so many tributes to him already, Rob, and I don't think, you know, you could steer too far away from the words that have been said about him, the kind of person he was, both on and off the field. You know, it's that's who he was. And for people like us who knew him in every sort of sense of the word, we can relate to it. We can relate to the person that he was, and you know, simply because he played a massive role in a lot of our careers, first and foremost, and there were different components that make up the pathways of those careers, and he was good at that, and so. You know, that for me is something that I suppose for all of us as players who played under him and worked alongside him, those are the things that we'll take heart of, and those are the things that will live with us for the rest of our lives.
I get a sense, Mark Williams, that squad, those group of players didn't like Clive Barker. You guys loved him.
Yeah, good evening, Rob, and thanks for having me on your show. Yeah, Rob, like you said, I don't know if there wasn't any player. Just taking me back, the welcome that I got, you know, the first time that I met Coach Clive Barker. You know, it's like you're coming to your father and he's asking, is there anything that you need? I think there's only two coaches that gave me that opportunity. The other one was Budgie Bird, and the other one was Clive Barker. They, you know, there were certain things that they gave me. They gave me that freedom to be open in front of them, and that's why I could go onto the field and do anything for them, because, you know, with respect as a player, if it comes to training, you know, he's serious, but he's only serious for 20, 30 minutes, focusing. He only wants you to focus on that. Afterwards, he's like, guys, what are we going to do? And we're like, coach, wait. And Rob, you know, the funny part is, I don't know if I have to be sad or do I have to cry, but he always had a smile on his face. And that's how I want to remember him. You know, it's a sad moment.
Yeah.
Yes. But, you know, we used to be sometimes the last two sitting at the bar, and we'll just have a chat, and he'll ask me, what are you going to do? And I said, well, you need to go sleep, coach. It's time for you to go sleep, but you know where I'm going. And he's like, okay, just take it easy.
Yeah.
And, you know, that's why for me, I met the family. The two brothers, they were still small, you know, they just spoken now, the wife. And I became like family. And for me, it was, you know, what he done for South Africa, players, let's put it like that, players as a family. You know, none to a lot of coaches that I know. And that's why he'll be surely missed for the things that he have done.
And when you hear that so many times, and it boggles the mind, Andre, how was How was he different? Because coaches are what we know. Coaches are those guys that kick bottles and kick chairs on the touchline because they get angry. They get angry at the human being. Clive Barker had a different approach. What was it?
I think if I could sum Clive Barker up as a coach to start with, if just think about it for a second, Rob. If there was a coaching course that focused on the human being, that focused on the character, that focused on the person, I think Clive Barker would have written that manual. You won't find anywhere in the world coaches who are experts at that side of the game, and that's what he. I mean, Mark will attest. We never spoke at length about formations and things like that, and we spoke about people. We spoke about players and what players want. I mean, show me a coach anywhere in the world in the history of the game that would say in a team talk, "Doggies, show us your magic." That's what we want. That's what we need. Because he knew, and we all knew what he meant. Doctor knew what he meant. The players knew what he meant. Because he knew that that's what ignited the team. That one simple little message. And the fans would feed off it. The players would feed off it. And Doctor himself would feed off it. And he didn't have to tell Doctor that when you show us your magic, it has to be in a certain area of the field. Because if that magic didn't work, behind him was your Linda, behind him was your Eric, behind him was your Lucas and the rest of the team. And so all Doctor needed to understand was, right, I need to go and do it. And that summed him up, that kind of approach to coaching, because he knew his players inside out. And that's how he set about building the team, for example. And for me, it wasn't just a case of Clive Barker assembling a bunch of players and putting them into a game situation and seeing how it goes. He spent time understanding what he needed. And yes, let's bear in mind that he had the help indirectly of other coaches. We had your Jeff Butlers who came and started the whole process, for example. Screamer Shabalala was in there. Shakes Mashaba was also in there. So he could understand what we needed to do and how to fix it and what type of players to bring in. And that's what he set about. And he got it spot on. And that's where it grew from.
Sure. I think just when you touch on the issues around Dr. Khumalo and what he needed to do, there was a special bond with a lot of them. But I remember talking about the very same jersey number 15.
God bless you, Mr. B. So many great memories.
Tinkler came off Lewis. They've done it.
So many great stories.
Can you imagine you given a task 2 minutes before kickoff to say, take us to France?
So many great players.
It's been a wonderful, wonderful side. Doctor and Shoes, and of course Neil Tovey and Lucas Radebi, Philemon Masinga, and they've all got little stories in there of exactly what happened.
Thank you, sir. May you travel as magnificently as you lived.
I always thought that we had a style about the way we play.
Tribute from #MSW on 947. Vuma FM, Rise FM, and Sowetan Live.
Good evening, Mr. Marawa. Ukhuluma noSibongelelo kaMkhwani kaMgaya Mathafeni. Mr. Marawa, I want to send my deepest condolences to umndeni waka Clive or the dog Barker. Mr. Marawa, sad news. I think we have lost the father of our football, the man who has done a lot South African football. And I don't think, Mr. Marawa, what we have achieved as the nation with Clive Barker at helm, we will ever achieve it. I think it will took us long years to achieve what he has achieved with Bafana Bafana. And lastly, Mr. Marawa, engathi umndeni wakhe ungabopheka ngebhande likamoya engcwele lifihle kahle khehle. Ngiyabonga.
Good evening, Rob. This is Odysseus here in Cape Town. So sad that we have lost one of the big people in South African football, Coach Clive Barker. Our condolences to the Barker family. What a legend he is. I just hope and pray that those in charge might maybe one day name a stadium in his name. My condolences. Thank you, Rob.
Hi Robert, it's Abi Moloi from Naturena. The giant has fallen, the man who brought joy and happiness into the hearts of South Africans, the man who always filled up the stadium whenever Bafana Bafana played because of his style of play. He is no more. May his soul rest in peace. You'll be forever be remembered, Clive. Thank you very much.
Hi Robert, it's Winston and shareholders, good day. On a sad note, rest in peace to Clive Barker. This is the guy that everyone loved in South Africa, one of the best ever to do it. And I just hope that he rests in peace, and condolences to the Barker family. Thank you, Robert.
Hashtag MSWT. It's Tandegile here in KZN. Bittersweet Monday. Rest in peace to the coach of the nation, Mr. Clive Barker. Condolences to his family and all the players that he's coached and staff that he's worked with.
It is no wonder that virtually every single one of those players were signed by the top clubs in Europe. Timeless legend Clive Barker was the only coach in SA to win the African Cup of Nations.
2 goals in 2 minutes.
He made players perform beyond their talent.
He was the only coach who was giving me 100% freedom to do whatever on the field.
He was a friend, coach, mentor, leader, and father.
He used to be on the corner as a father, the captain, and so it went on. He let the families also come.
Thank you, Ntate, for sharing yourself so magnificently. Tribute at #MSW947, Vuma FM, Rise FM, and Sowetan Live.
You can also be tuning in and watching us live on YouTube. The two legends here with me in studio, Andre Arnser, Mark Williams, Bafana Bafana legends, South African football legends. People that made sure that in 1996 we achieved the kind of success that we did achieve, and that still today we talk about the triumph, the great era, the great players, and of course the great coach who today we say is no more. What are your thoughts? What are your tributes? Kindly send those through. And as I say, if you're watching on YouTube, you can also deliver some of those questions and comments right over there. Him starting you off on the bench. Did you have a conversation? Did you understand? Were you angry with him? Did you get a feeling that you deserved to start that day?
Well, we talk about the day. Let's talk about the night, the day before the final.
Okay.
Yeah, I was the pool champion. For 1 month, I was beating everybody on the pool table. And come at about 8 o'clock, coach called me and he says, let's go play a game of pool. And went to go play. And I thought, okay, it's going to be sweet revenge, taking the coach. Plus these guys like Andre, Sean Bartlett, them. I've been chowing them for the whole month. And at about 15 minutes later, the coach beat me.
Oh.
I was like, what happened now? And I'm going to my room, Rob, but the way I'm walking to my room, I'm not happy. I know about tomorrow, the game is still tomorrow, but now I'm walking to my room, I'm into my room, I put on the TV, I turn, I said, no man, how did this coach beat me? And about 40 minutes, I got up out of the bed, I went to the door, I went to go knock on the door at about 10 o'clock. He says, I said, Coach, this is Williams. He said, hey man, go sleep, we're playing tomorrow. I said, no coach man, I just need to talk to you. And I remember his wife was also there in the room talking to me and says, open the door, Clive. I said, no man, Mark must go sleep. I said, Coach, please man, I just want to talk something, because I knew if I'm going to say I want to play, he's not going to allow me to play, Rob. And he comes to the door, and as he comes to, he still had that white, the white overalls at the Sun International Hotel.
Yes, I remember.
And he had that, and as he put his head out, I put my foot by the door. I said, Coach, I can't sleep. We need one more game. He said, what do you mean you want one more? I said, no, you beat me. I can't sleep. He said, okay, let's go. Hey, it took me 2 minutes, Rob. Hey, I cleaned the coach. I beat him. Hey, I was happy. Now we're walking towards the room. He looked at me. He said, are you happy? I said, well, I'm happy. And as we're walking, we bump against another coach called Budgie Byrne.
Yes.
And he asked Budgie Byrne the words I'll never forget. He said, Budgie Byrne, do you think Mark Williams is ready for tomorrow? And Budgie Byrne said, if there's one player that's ready, that's me. I went to the room, and Rob, I was in the meeting the day of the game. The same gentleman that's actually sitting next to me
Yes.
I'll never forget it because, it went like bouncing. I put my jersey on, like, we're going to warm up now. And he looks at me and says, and like, what do you mean? He says, you're not starting. But I thought you were joking, because I was like, I played all the games. Why would I not be on the bench? And I'm counting the players, but I can't be counting like this. I just with my head. And I'm like, maybe he's right. And I took out the jersey. And a little bit of disappointment came. But disappointment not as in I'm not starting. It just, I was like, why? Because I knew he had reasons. There's no ways I could have doubted his whatever he wanted me to do. And we go into the bus. As we go to the stadium, nobody does nothing until Mark Williams doesn't start singing. And I sat there and I said, but this is a team sport. Whatever happens, it happens. I'll be ready. If he calls me last minute, I'll still be. And I start singing. And when I start singing, the players were surprised. But Rob, the bus, the spirit onto the field, the crowd, the people, at 9:30, 10 o'clock, people were up there. It was a lovely atmosphere. And
so you turned that disappointment into a positive thing. But you know what your biggest mistake was? Your biggest mistake was asking to play Clive again and you beating him at pool, because that put you on the bench.
Marawa Sports Worldwide Live. In 3, 2, 1. On 947, Vuma FM, Rise FM, and Soweto Live. #MSW.
Business is so much more than a 9 to 5. It's all the blood, sweat, and tears you put into building your dream. That dream wasn't built in a day, but it was built with a bucky. Not just any bucky, a tech-savvy bucky with toughness built into its DNA and a tailgate that transforms into a workbench. Put your best bucky forward every day in the next-gen Ford Ranger single and supercab. Unlimit your world. Visit Ford.co.za to find out more.
Everyone is always screaming at us to do things. In the ads, in the papers, on the news feed. Things like, do the right thing, do it now. Are you a talker or a doer? Do it all. And if it doesn't scare you, you're not doing it right. And in times of crisis, do something is pretty much the first thing you're told to do. Like now. But sometimes the best thing to do is to do nothing at all. To stop and think. To not go with your first impulse, but maybe a more well thought out one. It's why we prefer to think long term. Because an investment philosophy that calmly sets its sights on tomorrow will always tune out the noise of today. Ellen Gray, long-term investing. Ellen Gray is an authorized FSP.
At Specsavers, we're committed to offering affordable and professional eye care. That's why we're offering 1,500 Rand off with our winter promotion. Get a free frame up to the value of 1,500 Rand or use the 1,500 Rand on one of our leading lens enhancements. To qualify, purchase a comprehensive eye examination and prescription frame and lenses. Book online or call your nearest store today. Specsavers, for affordable eye care and a whole lot more. T's and C's apply.
Celebrate Father's Day with Woolies. Get 30% off men's knitwear, sleepwear and slippers. Available in-store, online and on the app until 18 June. Don't miss out. T's and C's apply. Woolworths, the difference.
Deal or No Deal is more than just a game show that everyone talks about. It's a game show that transforms the lives of everyday South Africans. To date, we celebrate more than 1 million Rand worth of cash prizes that Deal or No Deal has helped to change lives. You too could win up to 250,000 Rand in cash with me, Gauteng. Simply SMS the word PLAY to 43066. Standard SMS rates apply. Catch Deal or No Deal on SABC1 at 7:30 p.m. and on SABC3 at 5:30 p.m. every weekday. Deal or No Deal is sponsored by Lotto Star.
Lotto Star is licensed by the Mpumalanga Economic Regulator. No under 18s. National Responsible Gambling Program. 0800 006 008. T's and C's apply. All games are fixed odds betting events.
Clive Barker, the feeling of being the coach that qualifies a nation to a World Cup. His name, Clive Barker. That coach who has done that but can't go to a World Cup. His name, Clive Barker. being the coach that qualifies South Africa to a World Cup, but also not being able to see us through till the end.
Yeah, that was crazy.
How does that sit with you?
It doesn't sit well because I think I was a coward. There's no way I should have resigned. I was on the plane coming back from England, and I just thought I let the players down. And so to the South African, that team, I apologise because I really should have stuck it out, and they would have never got rid of me because they wouldn't have been able to handle the pressure. So I shouldn't have backed off. And for that's the reason I say that I was a coward. I should have stuck it through and gone through. And the sad part about it, we'll never know exactly how far we could have gone.
I did it my way. #MSW. #MSW.
A big Frank Sinatra fan, doing it his way, only the way Clive Barker would. In studio, Mark Williams, former Bafana Bafana striker, scorer of the magical goals that brought us glory in South Africa. He'll tell you that he played for Wolves. On the other side, on the answer, he'll tell you he played for Fulham. I'll believe him. But a former Bafana Bafana great himself, goalkeeper extraordinaire, led by none other than a great captain by the name of Neil Tovey, who joins us live from Durban. Neil, thank you so much for your time. Good evening.
Good evening, Robert. How are you doing?
Yeah, I suppose very well, but also very reflective here in studio. We spoke to John. He told us about your presence at the family house, as I know you and Clive you got along so well. And then the news would have landed on your ears, Neil Tovey, over the weekend. What sort of reaction does that draw?
Yeah, it was a twofold reaction. Obviously, I've been in touch with the family for a good couple of months in terms of Clive when he went, and he wasn't in a good shape, you know. So from one aspect, like the family have said, he's at peace now. He's not suffering. But at the other end, you know, we've lost an unbelievable legend to our game, you know, and it's never really a good time for that, you know.
What was your final conversation like with Clive?
Yeah, I mean, it was always one of bringing back memories and throwing back the years of football. You know, the Joburg part, we always often saw each other by the race course or at a football match here in Durban, and we're at a function. Yeah, and I was always just laughing about the real good times, you know, that we had together, and that was one of obviously Clive's greatest attributes, was his ability to have fun, but at the same time we were very, very focused at our job in hand, you know. And I've always said that if you're not having fun, you can never do anything to the best of your ability. And every time we really, all the players, not one player didn't want to come to camp for the national team, you know. We were all there and very, very, very happy in camp.
That happiness was brought about by many factors, Neil. You would know more than most. I think your image will be eternal, lifting that trophy, making history. We haven't been able to repeat that history ever again in this country, which I dare say is a disgrace. He talked about him not going to the World Cup, for example, something that he had managed to qualify us for, which again, as South African football, is a disgrace. But he took all of those punches, didn't he?
Yeah, he did, you know, and that was because he was a players' coach. He took the fall always for the players. And, you know, it was at that time, it was a very, very naive decision. You know, people didn't realize how strong that Confederations Cup was, you know, to call for his head at that time, or certain players, whatever, and he would stand by the players. And, you know, it's one occasion that he should have just been stronger and told them, you know, it's not going to happen like that. And, you know, and it was a big injustice that he didn't take the team to the World Cup. I feel that there certainly would have been a better performance from the team.
I know that we'll continue in the week with plenty of tributes. The likes of Doc will come in. He promised us tomorrow The great legend was trying to play football. Hurt himself, but he'll be in tomorrow. So he's on crutches right now. But we've got the brave soldiers here. Neil, I mean, if you had to leave us with something that we can hold on to about the memory of Clive Barker, what would that be?
Yeah, that's even through all the good time, and obviously we had a lot of great times. Whatever he touched turned to gold. In my early days in my career, I mean, I was coming through the amateur ranks. First of all, it was under 16 interprovincial tournament we won. Then it was for a brief spell with Juventus in the amateur ranks here, just in the interchange of season. And he won the league there. Then Durban City won back-to-back league titles. Then moving to Bushbucks. Winning the title of Bushbucks, and then obviously the cup competitions with Amazulu and Santos, and the likes. So yeah, he breathed success, and the most important factor around that success was just seeing the stadiums that were full for Bafana Bafana. The fans were so elated, and at a very, very special time in our young democracy in 94 through to 96 when we won the AFCON. And he always believed in the team. He never, ever doubted the team's capabilities. And there was just a special moment where we were in one of our trips to Australia, and we were at supper in our hotel, and there happened to be a bar that was upstairs from the restaurant, and it was a bar come dance floor come occasion. So, and we were just sitting there finishing off our supper, and he says, and then the music and the beat started to happen, and he said, Neil, let's just go upstairs and let's just sit around and have a chat. And I wonder how many of the players will come into the bar, into that room. And we sat around the corner, and then one by one, they all heard the music, and they all happened to come downstairs and just find out what was happening with those beats. And I remember the time, and virtually the whole team was there. And he said, yeah, you see, Steve Crowley, he's the only one that's a true professional. And he said it jokingly, obviously. He said, Steve Crowley is the only one that was a true professional. He won't. And as the words were coming out of his mouth, Steve was the last to walk into and that was Clive. And he just said, guys, you got 5 minutes, you got half an hour, and then, let's go to bed. We've got things to focus on. And that was it. We won the AFCON, the first game against Cameroon. And after that game, we came back to the hotel and we celebrated. And because you have to celebrate victories, nothing untoward, just to keep the spirits of the team up. And that was Clive, But it was certainly back to work the next morning at training, and I think that's gone out of the national team where you feel welcome. You always got to not looking over your shoulder. You were very, very welcome in that camp, and you had fun. But at the same time, you worked extremely, extremely hard for one another, because when it came to difficult moments in the match, that's when you got to come out and work together for each other. And that was absolutely, absolutely superb in that team camaraderie.
I think that boss story made Mark Williams very thirsty.
I think Fish was the first. He was
I can believe that story, man. It can never be a conversation without jokes, because even at the most difficult times, Clive always found a moment to spin things, turn them around, make fun, make jokes, laugh about things. Neil, I'm sure you got a mammoth task ahead of you on Thursday. I know your voice disappears rapidly. All that screaming on the field as the captain. Thank you so much, man. Thanks for leading. Thanks for being the superstar. Thanks for being the captain that you were. And thank you for being a friend to Clive Barker.
Yeah, and then obviously on behalf of the team of 96 and all the Bafana players and all the football players that we have and the fans of the country, obviously, condolences to Yvonne and John and to Gavin and the family and the grandkids and everybody, because we've lost a true legend.
The words there of Neil Tovey, former Bafana Bafana captain, joining us right here on the line. He mentioned something about Santos. You can't talk about Santos and not talk about former Santos leader, captain, Amazulu defender, Idris Burton. Good evening, sir.
Good evening, Robert, and good evening to your two legends in the studio, and good evening to the listeners as well.
Sad loss, man. I don't even know where your journey begins with somebody like Clive, but one thing I know in all my conversations with him is that he could never, ever speak even more highly of you than he did as both a football player but also as a human being. Now that father figure, Idris, is gone.
Yeah, no, without a doubt. I think, when I heard the news, it felt like the same feeling when I lost my parents. So that's the kind of impact, kind of effect that he's had on my life from an early age. I mean, I was in Durban at the time, and my first memories were we had a Puma outlet and myself and him doing promotions all down the Richards Bay, Zululand, Ishowe. And you know what? Clive's character was beyond. I mean, I did not realize he had such a big character. And that was my first interaction. And we just grew closer and closer. And I think a year later, in 1997 or later that year, I got called up to the national team to get my first Bafana Bafana cap. So yeah, really, I mean, I don't think we're going to do justice in this short space of time, Robert.
No, without a doubt. And I know I've only got all of 2 minutes, which was just the amount of time Mark Williams needed to score those 2 goals at AFCON. So just from that, though, Idris, maybe one thing that you might have thought about it. How do you think we should remember Coach Clive Barker as a nation? Yes, there's going to be a provincial funeral. We could always argue about that. I felt, he was not a provincial coach. He was a national team coach. But be that as it may, how should we remember Coach Clive?
I think Clive would have loved us to just remember him for the big character that he was. And I mean, all the guys will emphasize the same thing. And his character on the field compared to his character off the field. Off the field was even a bigger character. I mean, the stories, the memories off the field was unbelievable. And I mean, from the national team for me, and as well, more so closely to my time at Santos with him, winning the bob save. I mean, wherever he went, he just oozed the personality, the character, the enthusiasm. He had that charisma about him, and it's just positive. From the cleaning ladies in the office to the porters at the airport. I mean, I can think here of 1,000 things that I can think of times that, but I think he would love us to remember him for that positive character, that big character, that larger than life character. That's what he oozed. And I mean, the one thing for me personally is that, he made you believe that you are this superhuman being.
Incredible.
Made you believe that anything is possible. I mean, going onto that field of play, you could, and I mean, a lot of us would have run through brick walls for you, without a doubt.
Idris, as you said, time against us, my friend. Thank you so much. Really appreciate you.
Thanks, Robert. And just to his wife, Yvonne, John, and Gavin, from my side and my whole family and everybody in the larger football community, our condolences goes out to you. All the strength and Godspeed for this tough time.
Idris Burton there, the former Santos and Amazulu defender. Both of you guys have worked on television. I don't know if you've been fired, but you know about time. I don't know if you still do television work. If you look at the clock.
1 minute left, Rob.
No. 5 seconds left. Mark Williams Let's do this again. Andre Arendse, let's do this again. I appreciate you both, guys. Thanks for joining us.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you. Thanks, Rob.
Thank you, and deep respect, Clive, for everything you have done for our country and for Bafana Bafana.
But with Clive, he made it look easy.
You brought happiness and joy to everyone you met. Your legacy as a legend.
And there he is, Nelson Mandela. How often have we seen him doing that now?
And the gentleman of South African football will forever live in our hearts.
All the Gogos and everybody will come and do the flying run, and it's amazing that team has never been put to bed because...
From all of us at #MSW on 947, Vuma FM, Rise FM, and Sowetan Live.